You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron. Now here's your host, Ethan Haristadoulou.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristadoulou, and it's that time again, Thursday, which means another weekend of NFL football. This time, week number 7 rolling around, and tonight's matchup is going to be between the Denver Broncos and the New Orleans Saints. Today, we'll dive in. We'll take a look at that Thursday night football matchup. The rest of my predictions will come out tomorrow, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. But I invite you all to comment down below. Let me hear your thoughts on tonight's matchup. What are you expecting from it points-wise? Who's coming out victorious? Anything you're specifically looking for? But we'll dive in and preview this game here. The first thing that I want to look at here, and it's one of those things that I think is starting to become increasingly difficult to ignore because the number gap is getting crazier and crazier by the game. And I'm talking about Bo Nix, specifically when he's facing pressure and when he's not facing pressure when he drops back to pass. It is like night and day. And granted, he's a rookie, so I do understand that. But the numbers are getting so wide that I think it really is worth pointing out here. When you look at Bo Nix and when he's under pressure, you're sitting here and here are the numbers: 171 passing yards, 1 singular touchdown to 3 interceptions, a passer rating of just 35.6, his yards per attempt sitting just over 3 at 3.1 with about a 45% completion rate. Now, when you look at his numbers while he's not under pressure, like I said, it's night and day. Like, he's a completely different person when that offensive line in front of him can give him some time to work with and keep that pocket clean. You're looking at 911 yards, 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, a passer rating that's about 53 points higher than when he's under pressure at 88.7. His yards per attempt doubles and some change at 6.4 yards, and his pass completion rate jumps up to about nearly 68%, which is like a whopping 24%, 23% higher than what I said his under pressure number is. If New Orleans can come in and find even just a little bit of success against this offensive line when Bo Nix drops back to pass, there is a good shot that they could steal this game. Now, there are a lot of other things with New Orleans right now that are going wrong, but pressure and getting after the quarterback, not necessarily their strength by any means. They're currently sitting bottom 5 in overall pressure rate. They rank 19th in sacks. They have allowed the 4th most passing yards this season because of that. They can't get after the quarterback. They can't make them uncomfortable. And the problem here is if they can't do that against Bo Nix, Denver's offense has been not great this year, struggling to run the football. But on top of that, if you can't get after the quarterback defensively, it puts you in a position where you're probably finding yourself falling behind because points are getting put on the board. And right now with the situation of Spencer Rattler in, it's not really ideal. So New Orleans defense, especially that pass rush, that front 7, they have got to find a way to get to Bo Nix and make him uncomfortable because he's prone to making mistakes. He'll throw the football away more often than not. He's clearly uncomfortable. He takes off with the football a lot as well under pressure. You need to get after Bo Nix and force him into being uncomfortable. Now, for New Orleans, offensively for them, Spencer Rattler looks like he's going to be the quarterback. I'm looking at the injury report here, and for the most part, it seems like Derek Carr's not going to play. Like, he did not participate in practice Tuesday or Wednesday. He's listed as doubtful, so all signs are pointing to another game of Spencer Rattler here. I don't think, especially on a short week, if he has not practiced at all, it makes really any sense for Derek Carr to just step in and play. So I'm going to lean on the side of he's probably not going to play tonight. New Orleans needs their wide receiver room to step up big time. And the reality is that their wide receiver room is just as battered of a spot as the quarterback room. Unfortunately, the way things stand right now, Chris Olave, he's not going to play. Rashid Shaheed, he's done for the season because of his knee surgery. So now you're looking at a very thin group of guys to work with here. You're looking at wide receiver Bub Means. You have Mason Tipton and Cedric Wilson as the 3 wide receivers left that you have to work with here, and they combined for a whopping 14 receptions, 116 yards, and a singular touchdown. That's the equivalent of like a really good game from a star wide receiver on a random Sunday. So you look at that in the current situation, one of those guys has got to step up. I would also look at the tight ends, Foster Moreau and Jawan Johnson, as guys that you're probably going to lean into into a lot when it comes to the passing game here. A lot of 12 personnel. Maybe you even see some 22 personnel because you do have a couple of solid running backs working with behind you in Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. But I expect that we're going to see a passing game that looks like it has a lot of heavy sets just because of how thin you are at wide receiver, or at least probably more than typical at the very least. And then that lean in to both Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. Denver right now, though, they are not the easiest team to run against, so that could pose a bit of an issue for New Orleans. They do rank number 2 in the league in run stuff rate per Next Gen Stats. They're also 6th in yards per attempt allowed when someone is running the football against them. That defensive front over in Denver is... they're a pretty tough unit. They got a bunch of really good guys over there, and between going after the quarterback and creating pressure in the passing game, and then when it comes to defending the run, they just close gaps so quickly and they shut things down immediately. You do not really find a ton of success running the football. So it is one of those things that when you wrap all of that together, there is a lot to be concerned about. And while we're on the topic of injuries here, there's just so many guys on New Orleans' roster that are set to potentially miss that could affect the offense even further, or already are set to miss the game. Amongst the guys we've already discussed here, Pete Werner on the defense is going to be out for this game here, but offensively as well, Cesar Ruiz, he's going to be out for this matchup here. And on top of that, you currently have another offensive lineman in Lucas Patrick listed as questionable as well. And when you look at his practice report, it says limited for both Tuesday and Wednesday. So there's the possibility that he's missing from the game as well. You're looking at a situation right now where you're going to be down potentially 3 offensive linemen, because obviously Eric McCoy's been out. You're looking at 2 interior linemen potentially out as well, with one of them already being confirmed. This does not really bode well considering the defense that they're going up against in Denver here. It makes me feel like the score probably winds up being a little bit lower because, like I said, yes, New Orleans got torched last week for 51 points, all things considered, but I don't know if Denver's offense is comparable with what Tampa Bay is doing, so you're probably going to get a good game out of Denver's offense altogether. They really do not run the football extremely well, so I'll be curious to see how they fare doing that against New Orleans defense, but I still err on the side of maybe a slightly lower scoring affair, but you're probably going to get a good game out of Denver here. On Denver's side, though, it is worth pointing out they're going to be without Pat Surtain. He didn't practice Tuesday and Wednesday, so he is out with a concussion, so you can keep that in mind. The secondary going to be a little bit thin, missing that lead guy there. You also have a guy like Damari Mathis with an ankle injury. He has been practicing. He's listed as questionable, but just a guy to keep an eye on, and a couple of other guys in Jaquan McMillan. You also have Riley Moss as well, listed as unspecified, but full participants in practice. I expect that they go, but you never know. Crazy things can happen here, but just keep an eye on that cornerback room because it could be a little bit thin. And at the very best situation, just about everyone's playing except for Pat Surtain, and we cannot stress just how important Pat Surtain is to the back end of that defense. He is a large reason why teams struggle to throw the football against them. I look at Pat Surtain as one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL doing what he does best, so I don't think you can't really overstate the loss of him being there for this defense here. And I think if he's playing in this game, there's a really good chance things get really ugly. But without him, it does make things at least slightly more doable, I guess, for the New Orleans Saints offense. Slightly, not to act like there aren't a bunch of slouches on the other, like at the rest of the 10 positions on the field that'll be playing at any point. I love Denver's defense. I think they're a strong unit, but not having Pat Surtain is a bit of a blow. That all being said, with the way this matchup is kind of shaping up to be, I don't really expect a ton out of the New Orleans Saints offense. I think with the 27 points they got in that second quarter last week, they had a lot of things really swing their way for that opportunity. And we're talking, tipped interceptions and, the punt return, kick return, whatever it was, return. I feel like a lot swung in the direction of New Orleans. And the reality is that offense is probably going to be good for like a couple of scores, maybe a field goal thrown in there. And with Denver's offense, the way it's been, it has not really been lighting anyone up by any means. I'm looking at something along the lines of a Denver Broncos win, of course, but as for the score, I'm thinking something in the ballpark of like 24 to 17, maybe 24 to 13, something along those lines. I think New Orleans maybe finds a touchdown or 2, but they're probably going to have a really tough time moving against this defense. And, if they sit on a game where they only score a single touchdown, maybe 2, and they're, knocking through a couple of field goals because they get some good field position, I wouldn't be shocked. It's also a Thursday night game, and for the most part, Thursday night games tend to err more on the lower scoring side of things. I know we have had some exceptions to that already this season, but we typically get some of the more flat kind of games where it's more grindy. Defenses are winning a lot more battles in those games. On the shorter weeks, you don't get as much time to game plan offensively. So looking for a lower scoring type of contest here. And then Denver for the W, 24-17, 24-13, something in that ballpark is what I'm looking at. But let me know in that comment section down below. How are you feeling about this Denver Broncos into New Orleans to take on the Saints matchup? What are you thinking here? Anything else that you think I should have pointed out? Fire away in that comment section. But that's it for me. We'll catch you tomorrow for a full slate of 13 other games we got to talk for Sunday. But I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.